Greetings and salutations! Welcome to another one of our team guides. So if you haven't watched any of the others, I've done the entire Premiership, every team in the Premiership. Basically what this guide is a complete guide to a particular team. And today we're looking at Borussia Dortmund. As a Liverpool fan, I enjoy Borussia Dortmund. Obviously we've got the Jurgen Klopp link now. So this guide is going to go through pretty much everything about the club, from the finances and the budgets to what the owners expect you to achieve in the first season. We'll then have a brief look through the team. We'll have a look through some of the youngsters, see if they've got any good players coming through. And then look at areas that might need strengthening in the team. And then what I'll do is I'll cut to a few weeks on where I've actually made some signings. So I'm going to pretend that I'm going to be playing this save. I'm going to make the signings that I would make in it and go through them and maybe some of the sales, because you might need to raise some funds. I haven't looked at any of the finances yet, so I'm looking at it with you. And then what I'll do is I'm going to build a very basic tactic, like a starter tactic. You know, you make a tactic and then you make tweaks all the way through. So I'll play a few games of the season with a very basic tactic that might or might not work, and then we'll discuss that and see what needs changing. So you'll have a good, well-rounded guide on the complete team. So if you, like me, I mainly manage in England because I know the players, I know the teams well, and I like just managing in England. But I do the occasional save outside of England, and it's a good chance for, if you've never managed in Germany before and want to give it a go, this is the perfect place to do it. Or even if you just fancy a Borussia Dortmund save, and you might agree or disagree with some of my views, but we'll go through it. So let's start off with the personal message from Hans Joachim Vance. I'm going to murder names, I'll just tell you now. Just leave it. You can leave a comment if you want on how I'm mispronouncing names, but I butcher the most basic names, so let's just go with that. So we're on 52 grand a week. Very nice. They got no specific philosophies, which is fantastic. You can basically play how you like. They don't need you to play a certain way or play youngsters or play attacking football, which is fantastic. These are our transfer updates. We'll actually just go through these when we get to the team. I did notice when I first added the manager, there's a lot of injuries to start off the season. You've got Nuri Sahin, who's a guy that used to be on loan to Liverpool, who was a massive failure, but he does well at Dortmund. He's out for 6 months. Ramos is out for 5 weeks. Subotic is out for 7 weeks. Emerick Derm is out for 6 months. Joseph Claude Gailly is out for 14 months. El Bouatsi is out for 10 months. And Bandowski is out for 3 months. So bear that in mind when you take over, that there is going to be a number of players that aren't going to play in your first season. Look at that, 14 months. You don't see that very often. So let's have a look at what they expect you to achieve this season. So, in the German First Division, they want us to qualify for the Champions League. Remember, if you think about it, like very basic terms of the history of Borussia Dortmund, they used to be good, then they weren't, then Klopp came, then they were good again, then Bayern Munich just went nuts, and Jurgen Klopp's last season they were down the bottom of the league for a number of it. They did a bit of a Chelsea, I think they finished 7th in the end, but then he decided to leave, and so they basically we're trying to get back into Champions League, and then we're trying to challenge Bayern Munich. That is the main goal of this save. And I have to take something in with my dog that's just stolen a sweet wrapper because he's naughty. Right, so Champions League. Okay, I think that's definitely doable. They're not expecting us to win the league, so that's good. What are you doing, dog? The German Cup semi-finals and the Europa League. Reach the group stage. I think we can reach the group stage. I think so. They're pretty much saying we're not really that bothered about it. So that's fantastic. Next up, let's look at finances. This is going to be a big one. We've got 100 million in the bank, and they're giving us 10. That's really nice of them, isn't it? We get 90% of transfer revenue. We're currently spending 1.1 on wages. We've got a 1.2 budget. So first thing I'm going to do, because we have so much money, I'm going to ask for more money. Right. We believe the current transfer budget is sufficient for you to reach your objectives. Now you can give this a go. Let's see if we can Yeah, if you don't grant this request, there's a very real chance the club being left behind in the transfer market. I'm really sort of going to push it just because if I get sacked, it's no big deal. Okay, so you can give that a go. You might be able to do it if you choose a different option, but they're not giving me any of that money. But at least we know we're not like in debt, and hopefully come January or something like that, or next season, we're going to get a lot of money. We've got no debts whatsoever. Fantastic. So let's have a look at the main squad. We're just going to go through the players. We're not going to go like mad on detail. Just sort of briefly look. The squad is massive. I don't like massive squads. I'm much more of a keeping it small and compact and giving players games time and stuff like that. So first off, we'll move these players that are out on loan to the under-19s just so we can slim down this massive squad. So bearing in mind we have injuries, these guys are just unavailable for the next match. That's no problem. So here we go. Murder some name times. First up, we've got goalkeepers. We've got 2 goalkeepers. Excellent. Neither of them are that spectacular, it looks from the outset. We have Weidenfeller. He's a 34-year-old, really good experience, decent player. He's on 41 grand a week. That's not too bad. He's got probably a year left on his contract. Actually, a really good keeper. It shows how good the team is. I'm so used to playing my YouTube save with like if I see a stat above 10, I get an erection. But this is fantastic. Let's have a look at any of the sort of crazy. He's good at one-on-ones. Tendency to punch is 14, which is a sort of common European thing. Command of area is only 10. He's 6'2", which is okay, but command of area is only 10, which is not fantastic. He's fantastic at one-on-ones. Kicking and passing and throwing are all not fantastic. So his distribution's going to be tricky. I'd probably just play it short, keep the ball. I don't think he's going to be making any decent long passes. But other than that, he's a quality player. He's got good determination. He's going to be a good shooter if you did get a young goalkeeper in. I think he's definitely a good player. Next up, we've got Roman Berkey. Now he's 24 years old, Swiss, with 2 caps. Very similar. Tendency to punch is less. He's good at rushing out. His one-on-ones is okay. He's got much better distribution. So if you're going to go longer, that's definitely a goalkeeper you might want to use. We'll have a little compare. And we'll go 2 and 2. We'll just have a look. So Weidenfeller's the better shot stopper. But as we said, Berkey's distribution is much higher. That's the main difference, really. And obviously, he's got 10 years on him. But there's a couple of good options there. Next up, we'll go through right backs. We'll speed this along a little bit quicker, I think, just because there's so many players. We'll just go through the list. We've got Castro, 28 years old, decent all-rounder, very ridiculously versatile. But I think he's okay. Decent squad play. He's worth 11 million, so we've only just signed him. That's a lot of money for him. So you can't actually sell him, but he's a decent bench sitter, I think, because he's so versatile. Now we've got Socrates Papastopoulopoulos, 27 years old, absolute quality centre back. Physicals are ridiculous. Aerially is probably a little bit weak. Only 13 heading. He's only 6'1". His jumping's 14. But really pacey. He's still a great player. I definitely work on his heading a little bit more. 27 years old. He's into the prime of his career. Quality centre back. Next up, we've got Matthias Ginter, who's also another centre back, 6'2", 21 years old. So plenty of time to improve, and the scouts I think he will do. Valued at 14 million. Decent player, decent all-rounder with a bit of potential, and he can also fill in another couple of positions. Next up we have Mats Hummels, the Borussia legend. Yeah, what's that? Almost 10 seasons now at the club. I bet Bayern were gutted they let him go for 3.7 million. 26 years old. Really good mentals, decent physicals, very good centre-back. Interesting here, tries long-range passing. He's got good passing, so that's okay. Tries to play his way out of trouble, which could lead him to the odd mistake. That's something to watch out. Now we've got Subotic, however you want to pronounce it. Absolute quality defender. He's out for 7 weeks, so he should be back shortly. Very sort of one-dimensional. He's a centre-back. You know, he's good at tackling, marking, heading. He's not exceptional at anything else. He's not a great passer like a couple of the other players we looked at, but still a quality player. El Brazi, we know he's out for 10 months. He's only 18 years old. I would just assume he's out for the season, basically, so stick him in the under-19. Sven Bender, who's often transfer listed in the game. I have signed him in one of my other saves, and he's a decent player. He gets sent off a lot, I found, because his aggression not being 19. It says he does not dive into tackles, but I've seen him do that plenty of times. But he's still a very good defensive midfielder. I probably wouldn't play him as a centre-back just because his heading is a little low. Jumping reach and heading is only 11 and 12. Definitely a sort of defensive midfielder for me. Next up, we've got Emerick Derm, who's another injury, 6 months. Versatile, can play both sides pretty much all the way, but he's, let's have a look. He's decent all-rounder, defensively and attacking. He's an okay squad player. It would be nice to have him on the bench just because he can play both sides. Eric Schmelzer, 27 years old, in his prime, ridiculous physicals, absolutely pacey. Acceleration's a little bit low for that high pace, but he's going to run all day long. If you want somebody that's going to go up and down all the time, he's going to be a decent player. Technicals are okay without being spectacular. Next up, we've got Park Hoo-Yo. Hoo-Ho, did it be pronounced? Oh, fuck it, who knows? Another left back. Okay. Unspectacular. We just signed him from Mainz, so you won't be able to get rid of him, but decent versatile player again. There's a lot of players in this team that can play a lot of positions. Now we've got Piszczek, right back, very good player, good pacey player. I do like him. He's 30 years old now, so he's just getting on the wrong end of his career really, but he's still a very, very good player. I like him a lot. And we've got Paslak, who's basically the youngster that's sort of being bred to replace him. Defensively, not so good, but going forward, very good. Interesting to see where he ends up playing. I think, obviously, more attacking. Like if you played a wing-back role, that'd be quite nice for him. But he's definitely a youngster with a bags of talent, possible 4.5 stars. Nuri Sahin, we've touched on before. He's out for 6 months. Decent sort of deep-lying playmaker, central midfielder. His physicals are a little bit low. I think he is a little bit injury-prone, if I remember correctly. But still a very good player. But like I said, he's going to miss half the season, so bear that in mind. Now we've got Julian Weigl. I'm going to go Weigl. 19 years old, possible 4.5 star potential, very good mentals for a 19 years old and physical as well. He's best as a deep line playmaker, central midfielder, good all rounder. His technical's alright without being spectacular, but I think he could be an absolute quality player in the future, definitely one to keep hold of. He's another new player for Munchen Lions. Not bad for 2.1 million, is it? So as you can see, Borussia Dortmund is kind of being rebuilt. There's a lot of players that have just joined the club. So next up we've got Moritz Lightner, who's a 22-year-old. He's alright, isn't he? Yeah, he's okay. He's not worth much. Obviously, we've got him from Munchen Lions a few years ago. He's gone on loan a couple of times, not really made it. I think we could probably sell him, to be honest, or keep him as a sort of just a squad player. Next up, we've got Gedongen, who's wanted by many clubs in real life, it seems. only 24 still. Another deep line playmaker, central midfielder option. Absolute brilliant player, passer of the ball, plays 1-2s, dictates tempo, central midfield. Quality player. He will be my sort of first choice central midfielder, definitely. Next up, we've got interesting one here. We've got Adnan Januzaj, obviously on loan from Manchester United. I had a brain fart for a second. Looks for pass rather than attempting to score. Knocks the ball past opponent. Avoids using weaker foot. Cuts inside from the right wing. Okay. So, obviously inside forward. Yes. Okay. Inside forward but doesn't like to shoot. It's an interesting mix. So, he's left-footed but plays on the right wing, which is fine because he cuts inside, uses his left foot but doesn't shoot with it. Okay. Obviously, he's a quality player. I'm not sure if you've got an option. I don't think you have an option to buy him. You are paying him 60 grand a week, but I think he can definitely contribute to the side. Just sort of finding a role for him that works is the big one. He's got decent finishing, composure, first touch, so I would try and not get rid of this looks for pass thing rather than attempting to score. If you're playing an inside forward, you want him to score goals. Because he doesn't like playing as a winger. He cuts inside, so that's what I'd look to do with him. But he's definitely a good player. Shinji Kagawa, so he's back after his sort of failed move to Man United. Nice little profit they made on him. So he's your more attacking midfielder. Advanced playmaker is his preferred role. Attacking midfielder. He's actually pretty versatile. He can play even shadow striker. Still a quality player. 26 years old. First touch, dribbling, flair is all really good. He's going to beat people for fun. He's not the paciest, but I think he's going to sort of beat people. He's kind of sort of David Silva in that role. He's not the paciest, but he's a very good dribbler of the ball. Next up, we've got Marco Royce, who's forever linked with all teams around the world, it seems. He's going to be your either side, basically. Inside forward is his preferred role. Moves into channels, plays 1-2, knocks the ball past one, cuts inside from the left wing. So we've got a right-footed, left inside forward. Obviously, that's the way he's going to play. Can actually play up front and is decent up front, so that he might be a good sort of second, third choice striker if need be. But as an inside forward on the left, he will be dynamite. Obviously, one of the best players in the team, probably the best player in the team. Next up, we've got Jonas Hoffman, who's is he new? No. Okay, he's been with us for a few years. Very similar to Royce, very pacey. Plays as an inside forward is what I meant. Plays 1-2, cuts inside from both wings. So, as you can see, this team is built not to play wingers. So this team is built to have, I guess, attacking fullbacks, overlapping and playing your wingers as inside forwards. I think if you could play him on a winger on the right hand side, but it says he likes to cut inside from both sides. So it's unusual to have a winger that then cuts inside. That's not really a winger. That's the kind of definition of an inside forward. So, but still a very good player. He's only 22 years old. Can do a job for you. Decent, maybe a bench to come off and do some damage. Now we have Pierre, Emerick, Aubameyang. So as we know, this guy is rapid, and that's his game. Rapid. Moves into channels, knocks ball past and cuts inside from both wings. So you're going to be playing him up front. I don't think he's quite got the stats for playing him on the wings. I think he's definitely a striker. 26 years old. Absolutely rapid. So some of his other stats are a little bit low. You're basically relying on his pace to get him out of trouble, and he's going to run all day, and that's kind of his thing. His finishing's okay. Composure 13. First touch 13, finishing 14, off the ball 17, that's good. Decent. He's an okay player. If he didn't have that pace, you'd go, he's alright. But the pace is what obviously makes him. But not spectacular still, I think. There could be an upgrade maybe there in 1 or 2 years. Next up, we have the American, who's out for 14 months. He's okay. I think that injury is going to really hurt him. But he's another pacey player, can play on both wings. You're not going to see him for the first season anyway.
Makatiri, I know how to pronounce this. That dude, right? Emerick. I knew how to pronounce his name, but it's just gone out of my head. So let's have a look at his preferred moves. So places shots, likes to round the keeper, plays 1-2s, cuts inside from the left wing, as every single player in this team seems to do. So we have another basically inside forward, or possibly a shadow striker. I quite like shadow striker. He's got all the stats for a shadow striker. He's nice and pacey, good stamina. He's going to run all day again. Decent enough finishing composure. Interesting. So an inside forward or some sort of very attacking midfielder behind the front man. Next up we've got Alan Oswalt, who's a 19-year-old striker. I'm not sure why we loaned him. Obviously we've got some sort of buyout. We can buy him for 714,000. I probably wouldn't bother, in all honesty. Then we got Adrian Ramos, 29-year-old Colombian, another absolutely rapid player. We've had him for a couple of seasons. How did he do in his first season? Only 2 goals in 18. There might have been a lot of sub appearances there. He's an interesting one because he's absolutely rapid, but he's actually also a decent target man. So if you're playing 2 up front, that could work quite well with Aubameyang. But very good otherwise. Nonetheless, he's sort of just 29 years old, so he's just going over the hill. He's just on the downward slope slightly, especially with the pace. That's going to start dropping. Could be somebody you keep, depending on what sort of roles you want to use. Next up, we'll have a quick look at the under. I'm not going to go for every player, but let's just have a look at the sort of top talents, top couple of talents in the under-19s. So we've got Dimitris Manolas, who is an attacking midfielder. Decent player. He's got a long way to go to reach that potential. He's only 15 though, so I think he could do well. Get him some tutoring, he could do alright. And then we got Hiedi Bunjaku, who's another 15-year-old. A lot of work to do. Maybe he's only 4 silver stars. There's a ton of work to do there. But maybe with like some help, a tiny bit of game time, bit of tutoring, they've got a chance to get there. And then obviously in the Dortmund second team, we've got Zeniz Burnic, who's a deep line playmaker, central midfield, defensive midfielder-ish, all round okay. 17 years old, might be worth keeping an eye on, but nothing particularly outstanding. And Julian Schwerman, yeah, let's go with that, who's a centre-back and right-back. He's got marking of 6, so yeah, that's not good, is it? However you want to play it. He's only 15, obviously, but that's going to need a ton of work. Again, could make it bit of nurturing, bit of cuddling, bit of help. He might be alright. So there we have it. There's the brief overview of the team. Now, what I'll do is I'll cut to the future of where I've basically gone through the transfer window, and obviously these are just my sales and purchases that I'll go through. Obviously, you guys are going to play completely different. We've got a very good team there. You could just stick with that, but I'll do some transfers of my own that I might do, and then we'll go through them when we come back, and then also we'll start looking at a basic tactic to start with. So join me in a second. Thank you very much. I'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Sorry if you can hear hoovering in the background. That's my girlfriend doing her bit. Right, so we've done some transfers. I've moved on a good few weeks. It was an interesting transfer window because you've only got 10 million to spend. They didn't want to give me any more money. So with 10 million, there's very few players that you could buy that would actually improve your squad from the get-go. So I looked at maybe selling Kagawa for sort of 20 odd million, but there wasn't enough interest in him really, and I would like to use him, and he got injured anyway, so I couldn't sell him. So that was a bit of a bummer. Royce decided he wanted to leave. But it's very rare that you get to use somebody like Royce in Football Manager, so I was like, no, sod off, you're staying, stop whinging, you little bitch, you're playing for us. The team did get upset at that, but then I told them, why would you want him to leave? He's really good. And they went, oh yeah, it's a good point, boss. So yeah, he stayed. So what I did with my money instead was I decided to get some youth talent, because there was a few players that I would like to get rid of. Unfortunately, there's somebody like Castro, who I definitely like to cash in on, because Castro. And he's valued at 10 million, but we've only just bought him. There's 2 or 3 players that I would probably sell on, but I can't sell until January. So January will be a much bigger transfer window for me. So what I did instead was just bring in a few youngsters to strengthen the team, and sold just the one player I think I've sold. So Sven Bender's the one that's gone out. He's a good player. I've had him in other saves, and I've never really got on that well with him. He's got decent mentals. I've just never been a big fan of him. He's transfer listed quite a lot as well in the game, so I sold him for 6 million to fund the signings that I made. So the signings that I made are Christian Pavon from Boca. Young Argentinian, 19 years old, just with bags of potential. So he's going to fill in that role that we talked about before, inside forwards, the cut-in. He literally does exactly that. He plays 1-2s, he cuts inside from the left wing. So he is an inside forward in the mould, and he can also play up front pretty well. He can be a sort of third, fourth choice striker if need be. Only 19, scouts rate him at possible 5-star, all good. Next up we've got Emmanuel Mamama. He's a young centre back, another Argentinian. That's kind of the reason why I bought him in. I bought Pavon, or I bought Amana, and then I thought, actually, I'll get Pavon as well. You know, they both speak the same language. It will help them settle in. He's just a really good centre back with bags of potential. Give him some cup games this season. I might even loan him out depending on how we go. And last of all, we bought Mahmoud Dahoud. Okay, worth it for the name. Just a central midfielder. I think that's probably the weakest area, with bags of talent again, and a German as well. So I wanted to try and get as many Germans in. Obviously, there is rules to play a certain amount of Germans in your team. So that was sort of one of the reasonings behind that. And that's pretty much it. So looking at the squad overall, we've got still quite a large squad. We've got a few injuries obviously coming back. So I think January will be a massive transfer window, because I'll be looking to probably sell Sahin. We'll be looking to sell Castro, probably Lightner, all of which I can't sell at the moment. It's up to you whether you decide that you want to loan out the likes of Dahoud, Mamana to get some game time. That's totally up to you. So tactics-wise, I'm not going to play games and stuff, but this is kind of the start of a tactic that I'd start with, basically. As we looked at when we looked through the team, inside forwards is key. It's key to this formation. All of the wingers basically are inside forwards. So obviously that's how we're going to go. Whether we have both on attack or maybe drop them to support, I'm not sure yet. But that's basically going to be their role. We've got 6 or 7 wingers that plays inside forwards. We have Aubameyang up top, on his own as a complete forward, with Ramos as his basically backup. There's a couple other players who can play striker as well. I am starting with a ball-winning midfielder to begin with, because we're going to have 2 very attacking fullbacks overlapping. I'll show you in the instructions, but he basically fills the gaps that these 2 players leave. So, and then a deep line playmaker, which is basically going to be Godongan. And the reason is that he dictates the tempo, he plays 1-2s, he's going to be just passing it around, some lovely balls. And Kagawa is now he's okay at centre mid, but he's retraining to be a better central midfielder. He's got all the stats for it, he just needs to learn that position a bit better. So what I'm going to do with those 2, they're going to be our main sort of guys for that. And then what the plan is to have the likes of Dahoud eventually take over that advanced playmaker or deep line playmaker, because Godongan can play both. So, and then obviously inside forwards, complete forwards, that's pretty much it. We're going to go for a control tactic. We're going to sort of mimic Klopp's Dortmund a little bit, not too much. It's going to be a controlling, flexible tactic. We will be closing down playing higher up the field. We're going to be trying to sort of basically force them into mistakes. We're going to be passing into space because we know we've got pacey wingers, we've got pacey inside forwards, and obviously Aubameyang is all about the pace, all about that pace. And so that's why we got that. Obviously, I always pretty much like play out of defence. I like to try and keep the ball a little bit. And obviously, with the two fullbacks attacking on, bombing on, we want to look for the overlap and whip in those crosses. Aubameyang's not the best target man, so we're just going to whip in the crosses rather than sort of floating them over the top. If we were to play our other Ramos striker, who's a bit more of a target man, then we might choose to mix the crosses up or even float them. But he's not that tall, I don't think. We haven't got retained possession on. I think we've got decent tempo. We're going to close down. I think naturally it will retain a decent amount of possession, but I don't want to be passing it about too much without actually ever getting anywhere. So, but that, like I said, that's how I'd start. So after 5 games, this might change quite a lot. We might do other stuff with it. We might change. I think the formation itself is pretty much secure. I think, one of the good things about this formation, if you're losing a game, you've got a real natural way to sort of go more attacking. And basically, you go, boop, boop. There you go. You're now more attacking. It's something that you could use actually against the smaller teams who you're expecting to beat, just to get more pressure on them, and then obviously just choose a role for that. But that allows you a nice switch of tactics. What I'd do is, if you're going to use this, learn both. So save this as one, and then save that as the other, just so your players are all used to it and everything like that. And then obviously Kagawa is like the perfect man to fill in that attacking midfield slot. And that's about sums it up. I think I've pretty much covered everything. Like I said, I think January transfer window is going to be the huge one. I can see myself selling about £30-40 million worth of players and bringing in a number. I did try to sign Christopher Ajer, A-J-E-R, but he sodded off to Real Madrid instead, like you do. Let me just show you him if you haven't heard of him. He's a bit of a legend. Very cheap, 17 years old. You can get it for about 1.2 million. So 825 grand. Real Madrid picked him up for, and obviously he's gone on loan to Sporting. He's absolute beast of a player. 6'5". I quite like him as a ball-winning midfielder because he's going to win those aerial battles easily. Get him if you can. You need to offer him a decent wage. Obviously, I didn't offer him enough because he went somewhere else. Yes, and that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the guide, guys. Please leave in the comments who you'd like to see next. Like I said, check on my channel because I've got every single Premiership club that I've already done. But I'm happy to do teams from all around the world, some interesting ones, some of the smaller ones, different leagues. I'm happy to do any you guys like. So let me know. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Please leave a like button, subscribe if you're new for tons more guides and all that sort of good stuff. That'd be fantastic. And I'll see you soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.